Hello YouTube, Dave here again. Today we're going to be taking a look at the 2nd edition Pathfinder condition card deck. So this is one of the first accessories, came out as one of the launch products for the 2nd edition of the Pathfinder role-playing game. I just picked this up the other day and I'm really looking forward to opening this up and having a look at what's inside. So just to have a quick look here, we just have the really awesome looking goblin on the front there. Looks like he's probably being grappled just based off of the tentacles there. It contains 108 cards. The US retail price was $22.99, and I think I ended up paying around $27 or $28 Canadian. On the back here, it just reads, critical conditions. Is your group's fighter paralyzed by a devious ghoul? Did the rogue become invisible? Or was an unfortunate alchemist struck down, slipping closer to death? Pass out these cards to make remembering the rules simple. These 108 cards include rules for the Pathfinder 2nd edition conditions, with prominent reminder text you can read at a glance. Multiple copies of the most crucial conditions mean there are enough for the whole table, and a set of tracking cards lets you easily monitor condition values and durations. So it gives a little preview of what the cards look like there. We have condition value and some of the conditions there as well. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get right into it here. Alright, we'll start with this pack first. Just gives an instruction card. It's pretty simple. It usually gives you where the rules appear, where the conditions are listed throughout the core rulebook, as well as tracking information. So it says the box includes tracking cards to use alongside these condition cards that make use of condition values. For each tracking card, has one side to monitor condition values and another for durations. Place this card under the condition card with the current condition value or duration exposed, just under the bottom border. So, okay. So we'll sort of show how that works here in a moment. So without further ado, let's just pop this one open and we'll have a look and see what each of these cards have on them. And then it says, another instruction thing here. So it says, it's just the other side. It says, if you prefer not to use the tracking cards, each card has a condition value, also includes a space to write the value. This works best if you put a clear card sleeve over the card and write the value with a wet or dry erase marker. So these cards aren't designed to have dry or wet erase markers put on them to start, but there are clear plastic sleeves that you can buy that you can put these on, or that you can put these in, and it'll work great for that. So anyway, let's just get right into it. I'm not going to read the exact information, but if you want to pause and see what they say, certainly feel free to do that. You'll have to excuse the glare. I'm having to record this at night since they are doing some work on, I think it's the water lines actually, in our apartment building. So they have this like huge, it's got to be at least 7 foot deep, a hole dug near the main entryway. I know that it would be over my head, and I'm 6'1", so I definitely don't want to fall down there, but it is really loud, so I'm having to do this at night. So unfortunately the overhead light is going to cause a little bit of glare. Hopefully it's not going to be too much of an issue. But here we have the hidden condition, and so it's got the major text that tells you what it does. So enemies have -2 AC and are considered flat-footed, and there's a flat check for them to be able to target you. And hidden looks like the same information on both sides. Okay. Oh, this is probably one of the ones that, okay, so there's multiple copies of this card, just to make it easier for multiple people to use that. We've also got the grabbed condition. So -2 AC, you're considered flat-footed, you can't move, DC 5 flat check to use manipulate actions. And there are multiple of those as well. Frightened. So this is where we would have the negative. So actually, let's just pop this open. We'll get to the cards that are contained therein in a moment. but we have condition value and we have duration tracker. So let's just say that you are frightened 1. So the way that you would do it is you would sort of have the card like this underneath. If you're frightened 2, then you do that, and you just keep going up depending on what the fright number is. So that's basically how that would work, and the same thing for duration. So we got the frightened one here. Let's just see if we have one that has a duration. So that was frightened, then we have fleeing, flat-footed, 2 copies of that. Oh. Fatigued, two copies of that. Again, just double-sided, same information on both sides. Fascinated, 2 of those. Enfeebled, gotta love the super scrawny arm there. 3 of those. Encumbered, this is one that might get used a lot because it's based off of how much bulk that you're carrying. Would probably be one of the more common ways that you would get this, or maybe other ways if your strength's reduced or something like that, that could also have an effect. So your clumsy 1. Did we see clumsy already? I don't think we saw clumsy yet. But, oh, it gives it right here. -1 to all dex-based rolls and DCs, and -10 feet speed. So here's one that's going to be a few copies of. Yeah, so we got 4 of the dying conditions, and they're the same ones that would use these condition values here. So when you get knocked unconscious the first time, if it's a regular attack, you're at dying 1, and then if you fail your save, you can go 2, 3, up to 4, and 4 is where you die. There is a feat that, I don't know if it's a class feat or if it's a general feat, but there is a feat that does allow you to increase your dying threshold up to 5 instead of 4. So that's pretty cool to have. It just gives the basic information there. And again, it's the same information on both sides, which just makes it easier organization-wise, not to just be able to grab the card, and no matter which way you grab it, you can have the information available to you. It's a minor thing, but it doesn't, it makes sense to me. I have like the Starfinder condition cards, and they're double-sided, but they have different conditions on both sides, and it can make it a little bit difficult to try to find the exact condition. So if these are double-sided and have the same information on both sides, then that is totally fine with me. And we got drained here next. And again, if you want to read what it does, then you can certainly take the time to pause it. Then we have doomed. So doomed is the dying value at which you die is reduced by your doom value. If your maximum dying value is reduced to 0, you instantly die. When you get a full night's rest, your doom value decreases by 1. So there are a few things that can give you that condition. I don't know any of them just off the top of my head. I've only ever run 1 session of it so far with low-level creatures, so we haven't really gotten to this condition yet. But it does look like a scary one, along with like wounded and dying. So, and there's 3 of those cards, and then we got deafened. And it is the same. Okay, I'm just wondering if some of these may be involved enough that you may need both sides. But we've got deafened, dazzled. For those, again, that's probably a common condition. Controlled, a little goblin on the marionette strings is pretty cool. Another chooses your actions. So there's only 1 of those. But then we've got confused. And there's 2 of those. There's 2 concealed. There's clumsy. So we got 2 concealed. A creature that you've concealed from must succeed a DC 5 flat check when targeting you. Area effects aren't subject to this flat check. If the check fails, the attack, spell, or other effect doesn't affect you. And I think there's maybe different forms of concealment. So that's good to have there. Then we've got our clumsy information here. So the other card had just a very brief point form version of it, but this gives you a little bit more to go off of. So we've got 3 of those. Broken, this is most likely going to be used for like armor and shields. So It's good to have that there. 2 of those cards, and then we got 2 of the blinded cards. -4 to perception. Alright. So that was the first deck there. And I think what I would probably do is I probably will try to find some clear sleeves and just put them, even if I don't use like the markers on them, just to have, just to protect the cards, because I'm kind of particular that way, I guess you could say. So here we have, we'll go with, let's just show the duration trackers and condition values. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those, which can come in handy. And then on the other side it just has the duration. And basically with duration you just do the opposite. So if you were, say, bad example, but let's just say that you were immobilized. Actually, no, this probably isn't a bad example, actually. I was thinking invisible for some reason. But immobilized, let's just say you're immobilized for 1 minute. Each round, you just keep going. So you move this down, so you have 9 rounds left, and then you just sort of keep doing that until you're done. So that's sort of the way that the duration tracker works. Alright, so here we have immobilized. So we have 2 of those cards. There's invisible. So we got the invisible card there. I guess I'll just in case you want to read what the exact effect does. And again, you've got your descriptive text up here, and then you have just your point form, important, I guess, crunchy information down below. So there's 3, 4 invisible. Then we've got paralyzed. Can't act except thinking. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. Persistent damage. So this is another one where having something like the condition value tracker would work well for that. Or the round tracker, or you can use either or again a clear sleeve and just write the information on top there. So persistent damage is just damage that you take at the end of each of your turns. And you have to spend basically 2 actions. You have to take 2 actions to try to, I guess, get rid of it. So you or an ally can help you recover with 2 action activity, allowing you to attempt an additional flat check immediately. So, okay. So DC 15 to recover, which when you're rolling a 20-sided dice and you need to get a 15 or higher is kind of difficult. So having someone help you make that check can be handy. And I think there's other spells and other abilities that allow you to end 1 condition that afflicts a target, so that would be a situation to use maybe that as well. We got petrified. 2 of those. We got prone, again, which is another one that would probably be one of the more common ones. -2 AC, -2 attack rolls, can only crawl or stand, but you can take cover. And there's 1, 2, 3, yeah, 4 of those, makes sense. Quickened, gain 1 additional action at the end of your turn, and you can write down what the condition allows you to do. Restrained, 2 of those. Sickened, the worms coming out of the apple. 4 of those. And we got slowed with the broken clock, it looks like. So pretty cool there as well, and you can mark down how many negative actions you get based on the slowed value. So there's 4 of those. Then we have stunned. So you can't act, reduce the value each time you would regain action, so essentially at the start of each of your turns. 4 of those. And then stupefied, which was one of the first songs that I ever heard by the band Disturbed. But pretty cool here. So you take -2 intelligence, wisdom, and charisma-based rolls and checks, and you have to do a DC flat check of 5 plus whatever your value is here in order to cast a spell. So that could be a pretty difficult one to overcome. Then you've got unconscious. So it gives you a whole list of things there, and same on both sides. And just remember, if you do need more information, The instruction card also gives you the pages, 618 to 623, where you can find maybe more detailed information on the conditions. So there's 4 of the unconscious cards. Then we have undetected, 1, 2 of those, and then we have our wounded. So wounded says anytime you gain the dying condition or increase it, add your wounded value to the amount. The wounded condition ends if someone restores hit points to you with treat wounds. Okay, so there's a way to get that back. Or if you're restored to full hit points and rest for 10 minutes. So it is something that you can get back. You don't do a full night's rest in order to get it back, but there are stipulations that you have to meet before you can reduce the value. And again, every time you're knocked unconscious, you are revived back up, you're healed back up above 0, you get a wounded condition. If it's not treated, it doesn't go away. Or if you get knocked back down in the same fight and then get back up again, you would go from wounded 1 to wounded 2. And if you're at wounded 2, for example, and you get hit by just a regular attack that knocks you back below 0 again, you gain dying 1, but you would also add your wounded 2 to that dying 1, which means that you're now at dying 3, and you're only 1 fail check away from death at that point. So the wounded condition can be very dangerous, and it's just one of those things that prevents a situation where someone is just constantly getting knocked back down and then healed back up just above, 0. Only to get up, get struck, and then fall back down again, and just sort of keep, yo-yoing back up and down, which I've seen happen in more than one fight. So this is one of those situations where you have to be a little bit more conscientious about the fact that that's not a good thing for your body, and eventually you're just not going to be able to keep getting up. So really, really cool there. So overall, some really decent stuff in here. The deck itself seems pretty easy to use. Again, with the duration tracker and the condition value cards, the way that you just sort of lay them underneath, works really, really well. It is also great to have cards that give you plenty of space. If I can find a good one here again. Plenty of space to write down notes. Just again, one important thing to keep in mind, these cards are not designed to have dry erase or wet erase markers used directly on them, so you would have to have something over top of them if you want to take advantage of like these sections here. But even just having these cards, the condition value and the duration tracker, works really, really well. And conditions are a major part of the Pathfinder role-playing game. And while I wouldn't say that this is necessarily an essential pickup, considering the fact that the Game Master screen and the character sheet folder also contain the information for most, if not all, of these conditions, I still think that it is a worthwhile purchase. Maybe not something that you necessarily need as soon as you start, your Starfinder, start your Pathfinder game, but it is something that will probably just make life a little bit easier. And it's one of those things that essentially, instead of the Game Master constantly having to look up the information, you could have these cards just accessible to all of the players and just, say, this is the condition, here's the stack of cards, you go in there and find it while I continue to run the combat or the situation. So I think it is a worthwhile purchase. Again, maybe not necessarily day one, but I think that having these will be more beneficial than just relying on like the Game Master screen or even the character sheet folder. So I recommend these overall. I think that these are a great product, and I'm glad to have them. I will definitely be using them whenever I run a game, and I absolutely plan on getting clear card sleeve protectors to have. But the other useful thing is, because they're double-sided and say the same information on both sides with the exception of the condition value and duration tracker, it means that if you just have regular sleeves that are clear on one side and like opaque on the other, you can still use those, and you're not covering up vital information that's cut off. Like I said, it was one of the issues, I guess, with the Starfinder one, was that I can't use my regular sleeves because I'm basically cutting off half of the deck. if I do that. So with this one, you can use regular sleeves, and you don't have to worry about which side is facing out when you slide them in, or you can use the clear sleeves. But again, I really like this product, and I recommend picking it up. So in the comments below, let me know if any of you have picked this deck up, and if you've been using it in your Pathfinder 2nd edition games, and what your thoughts are on having them at your table. Anyway, I just want to thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time. Take care.